My have family live in Spain. Yeah, it's close. 5 hour. Here. My sons, parents, my wife. I don't know. I like this.
They start young in this gym, huh?
Yeah, it's future Ukrainian judo. Olympic, yeah. Olympic future.
What did you tell him?
Kirill, like a strong, yeah?
Oh my god. Like what, son? Boom. Boom. Spit going flying. Uppercut from hell. Oh god. Woo! Oh my goodness. As you can see, Rico is a bad mother, shut your mouth, right? He just is. But a lot of what you're seeing there from Rico is initiated with his kicks, with his knees. There, you know, his hands work just fine. Don't get it mistaken. He would knock out a lot of boxers, but the heavyweight champion of the world in Oleksandr Usyk.
Attractive option. I had also seen like kind of rumblings that Verhoeven might have been signing with Misfits, which no me gusta. I'm not in favor of that. This is, again, I don't know what this is because I don't think any of us really think Verhoeven's got a shot. He could make it interesting. He is younger. He's pretty big. He's going to be, I think, a little bit taller than Usyk. He's going to weigh a little bit more than Usyk. I mean, who knows what he comes in for this bout, but traditionally he's been a little bit bigger, I think. A smaller end of the natural heavyweights, but I don't know if he could ever have done really well. Maybe he could have done cruiserweight if kickboxing was big enough, but I still think he's going to have, something of a youth and perhaps an athleticism advantage. But no one really thinks he's going to win. Still, I get why he went this direction, and I think you probably get that as well. Also, the location's kind of interesting, right? They're going to do it in front of the pyramids of Giza. I have been to the pyramids of Giza. I actually went inside of them. They were this was many years ago, 30 plus years ago. It's an interesting sight to see. I don't know how readily that space is usable for a big fight.
Away from yourself, what do you make of the fight between Oleksandr Usyk and Rico Verhoeven?
I mean, I think Rico's getting wrote off.
Did you come across him?
Listen, I've been training with Rico for the last 10 years, so I'm obviously pretty Rico biased. Rico's a good friend of mine, but he's a big man. He's had a lot of fights. Fair enough, they're fighting a different sport, but he can, if he hits him, it could be over. Do I think that Rico's a better boxer than Usyk? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that he's getting wrote off, and he's definitely got a chance of winning.
Oleksandr Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven has quickly become one of the most unusual heavyweight matchups the sport has seen in years. A reigning boxing champion sharing the ring with a dominant kickboxing champion, with a world title reportedly involved, has left many people in the combat sports world surprised. Some fighters and analysts are excited about the scale of the event and the attention it could generate, while others question whether this type of fight should even take place in a championship setting. Opinions across the sport are clearly divided. Here is how several fighters and analysts are viewing this unexpected matchup.
With the champ because he's the man, and that's what they're doing. They're sticking with the man that they recognize as the best heavyweight fighter in the world.
Yeah, but don't recognize Rico Verhoeven in that same breath. Create a different belt. Create a belt that brings the
There's too many belts.
No, I mean for this one-off fight. I don't agree with the WBC. I agree with the event. I agree with monumental matchmaking being made in terms of the greatest kickboxer ever against one of the greatest heavyweight in history. I rank him about number 7 as the great heavyweights in history.
Oladipo approaches the fight from a perspective that focuses more on levels than on simply predicting a winner. What stands out is the way he explains the gap between the two fighters rather than making a quick pick. In his view, Usyk is deeply accustomed to the demands of elite boxing competition, including the pace, pressure, and technical adjustments required at the highest level. Verhoeven, meanwhile, would be stepping into a completely different environment. It is not only about switching sports. It is about adapting to how Usyk manages distance, rhythm, and control inside a boxing ring. Because of that, Oladipo believes Usyk would likely dictate the flow of the fight and avoid getting pulled into any early chaos that Verhoeven might try to create with his size and strength.
Yeah, it wasn't his best, and I just wonder if he was boxing to the level and preparing to the level of his opponent. If that is Usyk, I think we know that he's in better shape. Maybe he's a few pounds lighter. That's a bet. But ultimately, he knows he's in there against, at best, a B-C level fighter. And I think he treated him like that in the second and third rounds. It was interesting to look at ringside, and there were so many fighters there wanting that Caballero shot. Tony Yoka was there, Okoli was there, Hergovic was there. So he's now almost being the hunted as well. He's the hunter, but he's now almost being hunted. And I think they were pleasantly surprised by the fan base. So it's not just a case of Caballero's an unbeaten fighter who's worthy of his shot against Oleksandr Usyk. He now brings something to the table. He's now like, oh, look what I can do. I can bring the fan base. We can sell out a stadium here. Look what I bought. I sold this place out in a week for Damian Neba. Who knows?
At the same time, Oladipo acknowledges Rico Verhoeven's advantages. His physical size and long career in elite kickboxing certainly give him attributes that cannot be ignored. Still, Oladipo does not believe those qualities automatically translate into success in a professional boxing bout. According to him, Verhoeven's best chances would come if he manages to close the distance and force uncomfortable exchanges at close range. The problem is maintaining that pressure against a fighter with Usyk's composure and ring intelligence. Over the course of the fight, Oladipo expects the technical difference in boxing ability to become more obvious, with Usyk remaining patient and gradually taking command of the action.
Give me a big name in Germany and we will do 30 to 40,000 just like that. So I think that's why he puts himself, I think, in the perfect position for if Usyk Wilder collapses, and I'm hearing that fight has a bit of a problem, then I think Caballero puts himself in great position.
Promoter Frank Warren was far less enthusiastic about the idea of Oleksandr Usyk facing Rico Verhoeven. Rather than analyzing the matchup itself, Warren focused on what it means for the heavyweight division. His main point is that several legitimate contenders have been waiting for their opportunity at the title, fighters who have spent years working their way through the rankings. Because of that, he struggles to see the logic in prioritizing a crossover fight against a kickboxing champion. Warren specifically mentioned Ajit Cabale as an example of a contender who has patiently earned his place. From his perspective, the bigger issue is not who would win the fight, but why it would take priority over matchups involving established boxing challengers.
He's got his fight in Egypt against the kickboxer. After that, he has to defend his WBC title against Ajit Cabale, who's been very patient and he's been active. Fought early, as I said earlier, in January. He has to have that fight. He has to do that fight. If he doesn't do it, then he has to vacate the title or he'll be stripped. And then he can fight one of those guys. Not a problem. They're with us. We can make these fights happen. But the most important thing he needs to focus on, he's got to defend that BC title against Caballero.
What do you think, though, Frank? You must have a view on Usyk fighting a kickboxer.
What do I think?
Yeah.
I don't like all that stuff. I mean, I'm not a big fan of all that stuff, you know.
But from the WBC point of view, Caballero's been sitting in the wings, deserves his shot.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah.
He should have been fighting Caballero.
But you put Fury in with Ngannou.
Yeah, I did put him in.
So you've indulged in it.
Sorry?
You've indulged in it.
I've indulged in something where some serious money was offered for a fight for a lot of money. And as I said at the time, it would be exciting, and it was exciting.
Wade Clemens seems somewhat conflicted when discussing the situation. On one hand, he admits that he does not necessarily dislike the idea of the fight itself. From an entertainment standpoint, it is the kind of spectacle that would draw a lot of viewers and curiosity. In that sense, he compares it to other crossover bouts where the focus is more on the event than on traditional championship legitimacy. At the same time, Clemens does have a clear concern about Rico Verhoeven receiving such an opportunity. In his opinion, Verhoeven has not built a resume in boxing that would normally lead to a heavyweight title shot against a champion of Usyk's caliber. Even if the fight is entertaining, he believes it raises questions about how opportunities in boxing are supposed to be earned.
Heavyweight champion of the world doing a crossover fight. That has become the norm in boxing, so I'm not so mad at the fight. In fact, I think the fight is going to be a fun one. I think Usyk's probably going to wash Rico, but hey, you never know. Francis walked in there, knocked down Tyson, jiggled his balls in his face, and ended up almost beating him. So yeah, I'll watch this. It's an entertainment fight. It's a crossover fight, and while I think that Oleksandr Usyk has bigger fish to fry in the heavyweight division, when KBL is a mandatory, I thought, for Oleksandr Usyk, there is, for other sanctioning bodies like the WBO, you have Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois. You have that fight about to happen, so the winner of that is going to, I thought, fight Usyk. And then you have Tyson Fury waiting in the wings. There's Moses Italma waiting in the wings. There's a lot of odd stuff happening here with the sanctioning bodies. And I'm going to tell you this now. This is what leaves a sour taste in my mouth about this fight. The sanctioning bodies are going to, and they already are, digging their own grave.
Clemens also points out that Rico Verhoeven is undeniably a dangerous athlete. His reputation in kickboxing alone shows that he is a formidable competitor. However, many of the techniques that make him threatening in kickboxing simply do not exist in a boxing match. Once those weapons are removed, the contest becomes something entirely different. That is where Usyk's advantage begins to stand out much more clearly. While Clemens admits that crossover fights can occasionally produce surprising moments, he believes the most likely outcome favors the boxing champion. Unless something unusual unfolds during the fight.
Oh my goodness. As you can see, Rico is a bad mother shut your mouth, right? He just is. But a lot of what you're seeing there from Rico is initiated with his kicks, with his knees. There, his hands work just fine. Don't get it mistaken. He would knock out a lot of boxers, but the heavyweight champion of the world in Oleksandr Usyk, I don't know. I don't think this is going to be very competitive. Maybe it will be. I said the same thing about Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, and Francis Ngannou came in and showed up Tyson Fury in his own backyard, and we haven't seen someone from the sport of kickboxing, exclusively kickboxing, come over and try their hand in boxing. After watching Tyson and Francis, it might be the right option to strip Usyk. People aren't going to like that because he's done a lot for the heavyweight division. He's one of the greatest of all time. But
Luke Thomas approaches the conversation from another angle, focusing heavily on the issue of the championship being involved in this fight. For him, that is where the situation becomes complicated. Granting someone a heavyweight title opportunity when it might only be their second professional boxing appearance disrupts the normal competitive structure of the sport. At the same time, Thomas understands why a fight like this could be attractive to promoters. The reality is that crossover events often generate massive attention, significant revenue, and a global stage.
Strong reaction to it, but I have seen some strong reactions to it from two different groups. One, if you're on the MMA side of things, I tend to see a little bit more enthusiasm about this. I think most of the folks on the MMA side that I've seen, again, it's very anecdotal, I've not run research, they seem to like it quite a bit. On the boxing side, they're real unhappy. They don't like this one at all. So there's a big divide between the two. Why? Well, number one, as I just mentioned, the WBC title is up for grabs. These sanctioning bodies, bro, they're just so pathetic. Under what, by what reason would you ever grant Rico Verhoeven, by the way, this will be his second pro fight in boxing ever. He has one prior to this. A world title opportunity. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And I think a lot of boxing fans, there were times where, by the way, the WBO was threatening to strip Usyk, and there were questions about, what kind of fight was he going to take. Personally, I feel like the guy has earned an opportunity to go get a payday. There are other fights for him to have taken, and what I'm seeing is that the boxing fans kind of wanted him to go down that road. They don't care about him fighting a guy who is, in all likelihood, hopelessly.
From a purely strategic standpoint, it could also represent a less risky night for Usyk compared to facing some of the most dangerous contenders currently waiting in the division. Thomas argues that matchups like this have increasingly become some of the biggest attractions in combat sports, even if they are not always the most meaningful for rankings or divisional progress. Large personalities, crossover narratives, and unusual pairings often capture more public interest than traditional contender fights. Dave Allen examined the Usyk versus Verhoeven idea from a more traditional boxing viewpoint and made it clear that he is not a fan of the matchup. For Allen, the concern is less about Verhoeven's abilities and more about what the decision represents for boxing. When a champion chooses a fight like this, legitimate contenders are forced to wait longer for their opportunities. Fighters who have worked their way through the rankings can lose their moment while a spectacle takes center stage. Because of that, Allen believes the fight would make far more sense as an exhibition rather than an official title defense. Ariel Helwani also weighed in on the discussion. He did not predict Rico Verhoeven defeating Oleksandr Usyk, even describing Usyk as possibly the best fighter in the world and the leading heavyweight of this era. At the same time, Helwani noted that Verhoeven has sometimes been overlooked in terms of the respect he deserves as a combat sports champion. He also suggested that the event might have drawn even more attention if the opponent had been someone like Francis Ngannou instead. Still, Helwani did not criticize Usyk for considering the fight. In his view, Usyk has already proven himself repeatedly at the highest level, defeating elite opponents and building a remarkable legacy. Because of that, if he chooses to participate in a massive event or experiment with something different, Helwani does not see it as a problem. The larger question, he believes, is whether fans truly wanted to see this particular matchup and whether promoters correctly judged the interests surrounding it. Across the sport, opinions remain mixed. Some believe the fight should never involve a real title, while others see the scale of the event as the main attraction. Regardless of where people stand, the matchup has certainly sparked widespread discussion. A world champion boxer facing a kickboxing champion for a heavyweight title is an unusual scenario, and it leaves many wondering how the fight would actually unfold once the bell rings. One thing is certain: when the night arrives, the combat sports world will be watching closely to see how it plays out.